What's up, guys? We are back with another one of CCA's interview, which is part of our outreach series. For those who don't know, my name is Aaliyah. I am a CCA intern and a junior at St. Peter's University in Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm majoring in biology, aspiring to become a craniofacial surgeon. I too was born with a facial difference called Goodman syndrome that came with a long road of surgeries, therapies, and a lot of rehabilitation, which you guys already know already. It never stopped me from achieving any of my goals. So today I am joined with Dr. Goodman. Dr. Goodman is a pediatric hospitalist at Riley's Hospital for Children at IU Health. Welcome, Dr. Goodman. It is a pleasure to have you on our series.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Of course. So our first question for you is, tell us a little bit about yourself and your profession to those who don't know.
Sure. I was born in Northwest Indiana, outside Chicago, and then I grew up there, and then ultimately went to medical school at Indiana University. And what that means for those who don't know is, for most people, it's 4 years after college, and then during that time, you sort of figure out what specialty you want to go into, and then you do what's called a residency in that specialty. However, like you, I actually wanted to be a craniofacial surgeon. That was my first career goal in medicine. I actually did a year of surgery and found out it was not for me for many, many reasons. Some of them were my reasons, some were other reasons, but and then I've always gotten along well with kids my whole life. I've always interacted well with them. I don't know why, meaning as an adult, I've interacted with them well. And so I actually did a year of research in a lab, like bench research, and then I went into pediatrics. And pediatrics is a 3 year residency, so all you do is see kids. And then after that, you sort of decide do you want extra training or not in pediatrics in an area, or do you just want to go out and practice? And so what I did was I didn't do any extra training. I just went to become a hospitalist. And what that means is you don't have a clinic or an office anywhere. You don't you're not seeing kids and giving them shots or anything like that. What you do is you only see kids once they're admitted to the hospital. And then so they might have, this might get a little gross, but they might have, a viral illness and they're throwing up or can't keep any fluid down or something like that. So I would take care of them until they're well enough to go home, is my role as a pediatrician right now. So
That is so cool. I always give props to all my medical doctors and nurses in the hospital, because you guys always do your thing in the hospital. And because I always grew up in a hospital and I always get along with the doctors, and you guys always put up a good front. Like, you guys always do the best. So I appreciate you guys.
thank you so much. And I remember being in those shoes myself that you're talking about as a patient. A lot of my winter summer breaks from school were spent in the hospitals or doctor's offices. So yeah,
Even,
totally remember it.
even birthdays. I
Yeah.
believe I spent my I'm 21 right now. I spent my 20th birthday having what did I have? Jaw surgery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so still going.
Totally. Yeah, I'm there with you. I totally get it. So
Uh, my next question for you is, what inspired you to work in the medical field and why?
great question. So I initially didn't want to be a doctor. I thought about it, but I also I wanted to be I loved sports when I was a kid, so I
Yeah,
wanted to write for Sports Illustrated.
yeah,
Unlike you, I have no athletic ability whatsoever, so I was never good at the sports, but I loved watching them. So I
yeah,
wrote for my high school paper as a sports writer, but then I sort of figured it would be a pretty hard field to make it in. And then I actually went to pharmacy school for a little while, thinking I wanted to be a pharmacist and thought I wanted to be a chemist. But ultimately, I sort of realized I could bring a perspective to medicine that not a lot of doctors could. And there have been a lot of doctors who have been through medical stuff, and some have been through much more medical stuff than you or I ever have or will. But there, a lot of doctors haven't. They haven't had the surgeries. They don't know what it's like to be in the hospital for weeks. And I just felt like me bringing that perspective would be helpful for patients, and it would make me a better doctor. And quite honestly, I saw areas where we, like, the medical field could be better at communicating, at talking to parents, talking to kids. And I realized that's a perspective I could bring, and I think that makes me a better communicator than I would be otherwise. So that's the shorter answer to that question. But I and then I just it's a wonderful job, and it's exhausting and tiring at times, but at the same time, I can't really picture myself doing anything else.
Right. It's you're doing what you love, which
Yeah.
I love as well. And it's crazy how you were explaining the reasoning why what inspired you, because like I kind of had the same reasoning too as well. Because at first I did not want to be in the medical field. I
Yes.
despised going to a hospital. I did not like I've been there my whole life. Why am I gonna, But then I realized like imagine like me helping kids that also have the same syndrome as me, or other syndrome. Like I could relate to them with a personal level, and like we could bring so much to the table at the in the medical field. I feel like because we've been in the hospital, so we know like what's going on.
And I totally agree. And I think sometimes what gets lost on the medical side of things is doctors will say, "Oh, just go home and do this," or "You need to do this when you go home." And I don't know that everyone understands what that actually means. It's not just like, oh, the minute the patient leaves the hospital, it's sort of we're washing our hands of their care. But no, it's more than that. It's like, what are the logistics of, like, how are they going to get around their home after, if they've had an operation? Are they able to eat okay? Do they even have transportation home? How are they going to get to and from doctor's appointments? And I think the medical field is getting better about thinking about stuff like that. But I also think we have a long way to go. But those are just that is stuff that you and I have maybe seen that other
Right.
people haven't, just because of what we've been through. And so it's just definitely a perspective. And I have to tell you, when you were talking just now, I was getting a little bit of chills up and down my spine, because I was thinking of the first time I actually ever saw a patient with Treacher Collins syndrome, which is what I have. I saw them as a patient in during residency, and actually I saw some patients with it in medical school as well. And it's moments like that that you never forget, because you're seeing yourself in them, as a kid, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And some encounters, I still remember where walking into the room, where the parent was, where the patient was, what the room looked like, even like you just remember stuff like that. And it's so rewarding. And that's why or one of the reasons, I went into medicine. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like like you were just explaining, like I literally cannot wait for that moment, interact with kids, and see families that have the same syndrome as me. Like the biggest goal on me right now. So I heard this from somebody else on social media. It was like be someone you what was it, be someone you needed when you were younger, and
Yes.
that's been me for like forever. So like I'm sticking to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I honestly, I've been watching some of your interviews the past couple of days, just to get a sense of the tone of them, and
Yeah,
that, and like, these interviews are what I needed when I was your age or younger, and it wasn't around because just
yeah,
technology and I didn't meet anyone with my syndrome until I was in medical school. Like, so that's talking, I was at least 24
mhm,
before I met anyone with my syndrome, or really hardly anyone with the craniofacial syndrome, period. But
yeah,
yeah, like, I think it helps so much, especially to see adults with facial differences succeeding and thriving, and if they're comfortable putting themselves out there. I've heard it or read it somewhere that it's hard to be what you can't see, basically, and it's really encouraging that different people with facial differences are putting themselves out there and even advocating or just very publicly putting themselves out there because, and I think it's not even just for people with facial differences, but people that stand out in any way, whether it's because of how they act or how they look. I
Mhm.
think it's helpful for people who are quote unquote normal. I don't really like that term because I don't know what normal really is.
Mhm.
But like the society's definition of normal, we'll call it, like I think it helps for those normal people to see people that may not look like them, may not act like them, may not talk like them, uh, thriving and succeeding and living their lives and not just staying at home and,
Right,
sort of feeling sorry for themselves. So,
right. Right. What's it called? Literally looking at you like you're literally like the ideal, like, what I want it to be. And to see someone who else has a facial difference and is out there in the medical field is so amazing. You don't understand, like, you and other people are like one of the reasons I'm still going because I'm like, okay, there's people like us in doing these careers. And I have to be part of them as well. It's like, it's so amazing, and I appreciate you saying you enjoy watching our series.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think ultimately in anyone's life, and I don't care what your background is, I don't care where you're from, I don't care how much money your parents had, I don't really care, like, we all face obstacles, we all have to overcome stuff no matter what we look like.
Mhm.
But if you really want it bad enough, if you just are willing to work hard and ask for help, acknowledge your weaknesses, acknowledge things you need to work on, be
Mhm.
humble about it, I really think you can achieve almost anything. There's
Mhm.
gonna be we're not all going to the NBA, we're not all going to the NFL, but like or WNBA
Right.
or but like it's I really think if you really, really want it bad enough and you're willing to sacrifice and work for it, you can make it happen. In all but some very rare circumstances, we're not all going to be president either, and I wouldn't want that job. But like it's like I really think that's possible no matter what. It's
Mhm.
just everyone's been given different challenges and different struggles. But I think internally, some of us struggle with the same things, no matter what we look like on the
Mhm.
outside. I think we have a lot of the same issues in common, if that makes sense.
Right. And that leads me to my next question. What was the hardest part of your journey becoming a doctor?
Yeah, and you might think, oh, it was my anatomy class, or oh, it was my
Right.
OB/GYN rotation in medical school. Honestly, medical school was really easy relative to accepting who I was.
Right.
I really, 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 really struggled to accept who I was not, what I had been given, what I had not been given. And I'm 43 years old. I'm an old man in my eyes. I was born very early 1980, the winter of 1980. And um I didn't really accept myself until I was 37. So that's 2017. And that really, really made it hard to sort of figure out why I was here, who I was, what I was sort of like, what am I even doing here? Why have I been given this syndrome that not many other people have? The odds of it are about 1 in 50,000 kids are going to have Treacher Collins, so it's not super common. And I really didn't, I just I just felt so conflicted. I tried to be people, I tried to be someone I wasn't multiple times in my life. I tried to hide away and just not talk to anyone multiple times in my life. I got made elementary school was pretty good for me, but I got made fun of in middle school a lot. And then I just started believing all this bad stuff that people were saying. And I have a hearing impairment. I'm not wearing hearing aids right now because I've like bone conducting headphones in but or on, but like I was taught from a very early age, you have to listen to people. You really have to focus on listening to people. And I did, but I also believed all the bad stuff that people were saying to me. And I just sort of ground myself down, like just over and over and over with all this negative stuff that people were telling me. And there's some psychology theory about like there's always like a tape recorder or tape player playing in our head, like our thoughts over and over and over again. And it's up to us to sort of change that recording to what we're telling ourselves, if that makes sense. And but it just took me a really, really long time to accept myself for who I was. And that, had I done that when I was your age or even earlier, I think my career, like my medical school career, would have gone a lot smoother. I think residency would have gone a lot smoother. I might even be a surgeon today if that had gone a lot smoother because I had accepted myself. But at the same time, I'm kind of thankful because the stuff that doesn't work out for you or the stuff that you struggle with is part of what makes you who you are. And I don't think I'm in the position today that I am that had I accepted myself earlier, if that makes sense. So another long-winded answer, but that was sort of what the hardest part of me becoming a doctor was. It really had nothing to do with anyone, courses or attendings, which is your staff position on a rotation. It was just me accepting me for who I was. And but since I've gotten to that place, it's been overall wonderful.
Wow, Dr. Goodman, oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that with us because that's really not like, talked about a lot. People with us that have facial difference, we don't really discuss our mental health and our struggles and the things we go through. So I really appreciate you just, being so expressive and, opening up about that, part of your life. Because I remember those times when you have those bad thoughts in my head and like, why am I here? Like, why do I look like this? Why me? All that. So, oh my gosh, I appreciate you just opening up about that because that is a real life struggle that people go through nowadays. And our viewers that also have facial differences, we all go through that. So thank you again.
You're welcome. And I struggle with depression and anxiety. I still struggle with anxiety about different things. You can edit this out if you want, but I tried to commit suicide twice when I was in high school, my senior year of high school, and it was all because of just where I was mentally. And I spent time in psychiatric hospitals in high school, and it's all part of the journey. But I think it's very, very important for anyone. I know this is mainly meant for people with facial differences, but really anyone who's struggling with anything, just feeling down about themselves, I highly, highly, highly encourage them talking to ideally a mental health professional, but just talking to anyone, just so they're not alone with their thoughts in their head. And because that can just get to some very dark and scary places at times.
Yeah, yeah, it really, that can. But once you get that help, you could be like Dr. Goodman. Dr. Goodman is a doctor right now. His mental health is up. He's finally accepting himself. Oh my God, guys, like, come on, come on. My next question for you is, I noticed that you are also a public speaker as well, and you had talked to over like 104 schools about the movie Wonder and how it relates to your life and also to spread kindness. So how has it been sharing your journey with others? How has it been?
So I this is how I know this is when I realized I had accepted myself. There's a sort of hopefully a quick story about how all the public speaking started is so I don't think I told you this, but so I did my pediatric training in Indianapolis, actually moved out to Richmond, Virginia for 2 years, then went to Phoenix, Arizona for 4 years, and now I'm back in Indianapolis at the place where I trained. And when I came back in 2017, um, I had just finished a night shift. And by the way, I work both days and nights, so it the schedule's crazy. But I had come out of the hospital on a night shift, and I was just in a good mood. I don't know why, and I had a like I love eating. It's one of the best things I'm good at is eating food. So I went to my favorite breakfast place that I normally go to after a night shift, and I was just in a really good mood. And I got on my tablet after I got home, and I just saw people posting about the movie Wonder, which was about to come out. And it was people with facial differences and basically briefly talking about their story in their lives. And I was like, this is without thinking. I was tired and I just started writing. I just started typing and I just wrote a couple paragraphs. I didn't really edit it much. And right before I posted it on Facebook, I changed the status from like friends to public. So like anyone could see it. Because most of my Facebook friends know my story. They at least know my general story. And then it didn't go like crazy viral, but it went mildly viral. And then a teacher in one of the suburbs of Indianapolis emailed me or messaged me on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever talked to anyone about your life?" And I'm like, "No, not really." She's like, "Do you want to?" And I was like, "Okay." And so I put together this sort of very crude PowerPoint, um, and uh, and I went, and that wasn't the first school I talked at, but after I did my first one, I walked out of that school, and I'm just remembering it now. I walked out of that school, and I got in my car, and it was just like this unbelievable high that I've never smoked anything, done any drugs. I fully admit, and I never planned to, but I've never been high, but it was like
Yeah.
that's I can't imagine a better feeling. And I was like, wow, this is probably why I'm here. Like this is my purpose.
Right.
And so it got crazy after that. It just took off. And so I did it for about 1.5 school years and then ran into some medical stuff of my own. And then COVID hit and it kind of shut everything down. But it has been the best thing I've ever done with my life, sort of professionally or personally, because you're talking to a guy who was so afraid to show his face in public. I would look down. I would follow the cracks in the sidewalk so I could hide, and people would only look in my forehead and not be able to see me. Like, well, I was afraid to order in restaurants. I was afraid to just really speak. And like, I would hide behind my parents' legs when I was little. I still remember doing that so I wouldn't have to look at anyone and people wouldn't stare at me. And but it's I transitioned from that to willingly going to places and letting kids stare at my face and hear my story. And I think that's a very, very vulnerable thing to do, but there's a lot of power in that vulnerability and putting yourself out there. And if you're comfortable enough to do it, and not everyone with a facial difference is comfortable enough to do that, and I totally get that. That's their right. But just to be able to connect with kids, like you can tell when you're speaking to them, you can tell when they're locked in, you can tell when they're listening. Behind me, I have literally a box full of letters and drawings that kids have sent me after I talked to their schools. I just can't describe what it feels like to be able to connect. And again, it's not always about the kids that have a facial difference, but just anyone who stands out for any reason. My goal of these talks is to get them to realize that it's okay to feel comfortable in your own skin. And we talk about being kind to others no matter what they look like or sound like or act like. And we also talk about what do we have control over? Because we don't have control over a lot of things in our lives. you have no control over, being born with golden heart syndrome. I had no control over being born with Treacher Collins. We don't have control over other people. We don't have control over what they say or anything like that.
Mhm.
But we have control over, do we believe those kids that are mean to us, or those people that are mean to us? It is our choice to
Mhm.
believe what people say to us. And like, we don't have control over others' actions. And normally, others' actions are usually a reflection of them, not of you.
Mhm.
And it's been just mind blowing, earth shattering, whatever you want to call it, to be able to do this and just to connect with people. And just to have kids come up and say thank you for talking with us, or I get it now, or one of the letters I got afterwards was from a kid who said, I was being bullied before you came to my school. I'm not being bullied anymore. And like, I almost started crying when I read that letter, because I
Oh,
mean, that's it. Like, it's just like, it's so, and I've had kids come up to me in public and just be like, you talk to me at my school. And I
yeah.
remember you saying you wish people would just come up and talk to you instead of staring at you. And so, and I was like, in my internally, I was trying to hold it together and not cry, and like my
Yeah.
lips quivering and stuff like that. And like, I'm trying to fight back tears, and I'm like trying to say thank you to this
Right.
kid whose mom is standing right there. And it's just, it's amazing to touch
Yeah.
people's lives like that. And so it's changed my life. And I truly think being a public speaker is far going to outweigh anything that I do as a pediatrician. I really do. So,
Like, who would have thought you would be a public speaker? It's like, it's
mm,
crazy, you know? Your
yeah,
entire story. That's like crazy. Like the
no,
best ever.
no, I mean, I never ever thought in my wildest dreams. I was so shy as a kid, and I'm still shy. If you don't know me, like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not one to go up and start talking to people in public. Like, that's not me. I'm a wallflower if I'm in a place where I don't know anyone,
Right.
meaning I just stay on the wall and don't
Exactly.
try not to make eye contact with anyone. Uh, but no, I had no idea, but I love it. I just, it's almost like it's not like I'm acting, but it's just like
Yeah.
I'm a different version of myself.
Yeah.
I'm still me, like I'm still Michael, but like
Yeah.
I still, like, it's just like a different vibe, and it's just, and I'll be honest, I think part of it comes from I've never really felt a lot of people really listened to me or took me seriously when I was younger. And you probably, I think,
Mhm.
again, people without a facial difference can probably relate to that too. But I think, especially if you have a speech impediment like I do, or if you just don't sound, again, normal, like,
Mhm.
I think it's easy to quickly get dismissed by a lot of people. And this is sort of a forum or a venue where people are listening to me, or at least I know at least a few of them are, and
Mhm.
it's empowering. And the talks have been very therapeutic to me too. Like, I've talked about stuff to kids that I never even talked to my mom about, or my dad about, or my sister about, and it's so therapeutic because it's it's kind of like Hamilton. I don't know if you're a Hamilton fan or
Yes,
not. It's like,
I am.
who lives, who dies, who tells your story. I
Yeah.
get to tell my story to kids a few times a week during the school year, and it's just, it's amazing. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm like speechless because everything you're saying right now, like the public speaking, I actually start my first public speaking gig next week at a school. So that will be my first public speaking ever. And like, I've been, practicing and everything. So hearing everything from you, like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to even, tell my journey. Cause like you said, like I'm a shy person. Like, I don't, it's my first time telling my story to people. You feel me? It's like, it's crazy. If you could do it, I could do it.
yeah, no, congratulations on that first speaking gig, I'll call it. But just be yourself. If you're yourself, it's going to come across very authentically. And I read a couple of books on public speaking, like as this was really ramping up, and like honestly, at the end of the day, I think if you're genuine and you're just you,
Right.
like people are going to relate to that. And
Okay.
kids do, as I've been a pediatrician for almost 13 years, kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for.
Right.
They notice everything, even if you don't think they're listening to you or looking at you. They notice things, and they know when you're not being genuine with them. Just be genuine with them, and it'll go so well. And please, please, like we're Instagram friends. Please message me after that talk because I want to know how you feel, how it went. Because I just want to know what you felt afterwards. Because I've never gotten to share that experience with anyone.
Yeah.
I would love to hear what it was like for you.
Oh my gosh, of course, of course. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. I can't.
Yeah,
But back to you. This is your interview. My last question for you, wait, not last question. Actually want to add a question. So you're a
sure.
public speaker and a doctor. How do you balance that? Or?
Yeah, it's really, really challenging. One of
Mhm.
the benefits of being that pediatric hospitalist is that I don't work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Really?
So I work like I might work for 7 days in a row,
Mhm.
but then I'll have 3 or 4 days off.
Yeah.
So then that gives me an opportunity to go talk at schools, etc.
Right.
And like being a doctor is my job. That is how I get paid.
Mhm.
Being a speaker, I do not get paid for that. That is all on my own time. That is with my own gas money, etc. Like that's just something I'm doing. And so it's hard. And like in the beginning, like those 2 years I did it, I was talking at 50, 60 schools a year, which is that was too much, and it was really, really, and definitely physically tired. So I am going to start doing them regularly again in August, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. But I will be doing it less frequently, just out of because balance in your life is very, very important. You can't work all the time. You also can't have fun all the time. It has to be a balance of that. And that's something that I didn't talk about with the journey of medicine is that I don't think people understand. It's not like Grey's Anatomy. It's not like The Resident. It's not like Scrubs, which is one of my favorite shows from 20 years ago when you were born. But uh, it is hard, and the hours are long. And when I was a resident, if we had what's called an inpatient rotation, that
Mhm.
meant every 4 days we were doing 30-hour shifts. So we
Wow.
show up at 7 a.m. and we don't leave till 1 p.m. the next day. And you may not sleep that whole time. So it is grueling. And we were working an average of 80 hours a week.
Wow.
Most people work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's really it's challenging. And now that I've graduated and I'm through all my training,
Hmm.
it's the schedule's better. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot better, but it's still it's hard, it's grueling. And I know one of your other questions was like, what's the worst part of my job? The
Hmm.
schedule is hard, and then we're not always done with our work when we walk out of the hospital. Like I'm normally spending a couple of hours a night doing what we call notes on our patients or writing notes
Right.
on our patients for the day. So, but it's a really hard balance. But I think the joy of being a speaker is it's so worth the sacrifice of the time and the sleep and the travel and all that. But I just I think the key to balancing is and this is going to be an example of do what I say, not what I do,
Mhm.
because I'm still working on this.
Yeah.
You have to get good sleep. You really have to take care of yourself. And you really, really have to take care of your body. One of the things I wish I would have told myself when I was your age was take care of your body, like meaning drink enough water, eat
Hmm.
healthy food, don't eat junk food all the time,
Mhm.
because that sort of builds up over years. And so, and then you also have to make sure you're doing something that you enjoy. Like I'm really a 7-year-old at heart. I'm really a big kid. I'm about 6 feet, 6'1", but
Yeah.
I'm really a 7-year-old at heart.
Yeah.
I love Legos. I'm gonna show you this right now. This is a Lego I'm working on right now.
Uh,
Um, and I love doing puzzles, and I love watching like old TV shows I watched as a kid. So you
yeah.
really have to balance um, what you like to do and what you like, in your work. And that can be very, very hard.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely gotta get your me time, like you
Yeah,
said.
exactly.
Like you
Cool.
said, you're a 7-year-old at heart. I'm definitely a kid at heart. I always say that to everyone I meet, like I do everything, like you said, Legos. I love building anything. I love being outdoors, anything.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm glad you found time to balance everything because that's a lot. But like you public speaking, you love that. So like that's like a like a me time, I would say for you. Like that's like brings you the joy. My last question for you is, what advice would you offer someone like me or anyone out there who is considering trying to work in the medical field as well?
yeah. And that's another really good question. I think with any job, no matter what job you're trying to get it thinking about going into, you have to go into it for the right reasons. And I so if you're interested in being a craniofacial surgeon, I would talk to craniofacial surgeons, which is really, really hard to like be shooting emails to
Hmm.
sometimes these very well-renowned surgeons and be like, hey, I'm in college. Can I talk to you about what it's like to be a surgeon? But you really, really have to talk to people who are in that field and
Hmm.
see if it's truly what you think it is.
Yeah.
Like, and you, like, it would be great if you could maybe shadow one of them or like go and watch one of their operations or something like that. Because you really need to know what it's like. And I think you need to ask whatever field you're going into, I think you need to ask them what what do you like about your job and what don't you like about your job, or what is challenging about your job, because I think it's really easy to focus on the things you like about a job or a career or a field, but you really, really need to take into account what the hard parts are or what the challenging parts are, because it's not like Grey's Anatomy. You're not going to be walking out of the hospital at 5 p.m. every day or earlier than that. And you are to go to medical school, you're like most people, they graduate college at 22, medical school is 22 to 26. Any residency is at least 3 years long. Surgery is even longer than that, especially if you want to go into craniofacial. That's probably another 6, 7 year, 8 years, I'm
Yeah.
guessing,
Hmm.
after medical school. Um, and so you might be in your early to mid 30s before you're actually practicing on your own. And so you really need to know all those details. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone from going into medicine, just you need to realize what you're getting into,
Hmm.
and but that applies to any job. So my main advice is to talk to people. I
Hmm.
think in life, the more work you put into it, the more challenging something is, the harder it is for you, the bigger the payoff, right? And I
Yeah.
think medicine is one of the ultimate payoffs after years and years of sacrificing and studying and working hard. Um, but you need to sort of make sure you're looking at all the angles of it before you go into it. But that applies to anything. I wanted to be an accountant at one time. If I was going to do that, like I would have called up an accountant and been like, "Hey, can you just talk to me about your job and
Right.
just what do you like, what don't you like?" So you really, really, really need to just think about all the angles of the job, and um, and it's not what they show on TV. No matter what you see on ABC or NBC or whatever. But yeah, so that's what I would say.
Oh, thank you so much because, I've been asking a lot of people, but like, they're not doctors, like you.
Yeah,
So, um, I'm pretty like, on, task and everything. Like, I grew up in a hospital, so I told, that's like my
yeah,
little like outlet. So I told all the
yeah,
doctors, oh, that's what I'm doing. They go, Leah, I got you. Like, oh my God, like I literally talked to my craniofacial surgeon, like, every time I go for a visit, he's like, oh, like Leah, what do you want to do? Da, da, da. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to, be in your position. He's like, oh my gosh, like if you ever need help or anything, like I could like, give you information. So
yeah,
like now that's a huge outlet for me, which is very huge. But like again, I am still doing my research, on, my career field. But like, just seeing you, I'm like, okay, I can do this because it's all about mentality,
yeah,
you have to really grind,
totally.
mentality
Yeah,
and
yeah,
discipline.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
right, yeah,
And that gets a little bit to what I said earlier about if you're, I really think you can do anything if you're willing to
right.
put the time in and put the work in and sacrifice and ask for help when you need it. But I would really recommend it with your surgeon if he or she like if you could just schedule a time to sit down or even a phone call or a FaceTime or whatever and
Mm,
just really ask them about their career, their training,
mm,
um, like if you haven't done that already, and just really try to dig into why they went into the field, what they don't like about it, where do they think the field is going. I
mm,
think there's another question like what are some advances that are coming, what are some things they really like about it. And
mm,
the other thing I will say, and this is based on my own journey, is don't be afraid to change. Like you can change field. You can go. Like I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. I ended up being a pediatrician. I
mm,
know of people who thought they wanted to be pediatricians and
mm,
ended up being surgeons.
mm,
So don't feel like you're just going to be stuck in one field or one lane your whole life just because that's what you picked. And it just you feel like you're stuck. You can always change fields, etc. Or I know of nurses who have become doctors, for example. So it's like there's it's just don't feel like you're trapped in this just oh I thought I was going to be a an eye doctor and ended up hating being an eye doctor, but I can't switch. You
right.
just have to be realize that people do switch fields within medicine as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy you say that because a lot of people have been like, Aaliyah, is this really what you want? Like, not doubt, like, saying like, oh, you should do it, like, options, there's
Yeah,
stuff, backup plans.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, fun fact, my parents actually did not want me to go into medicine.
Really?
They thought it was going to be very challenging and hard. And I got very lucky. I grew up in a two-parent household. I very supportive. We never had to worry about money or anything, but they wanted me to do something else. Like I have letters saying that they were very nervous when I went into medicine. It just goes to show you sometimes you have to forge your own path at times and do what you think you'll enjoy. And I think they were probably right initially. I think they really didn't want me to be a surgeon, but
Mhm.
they're happy that I sort of found my path. And so, but yeah, it's just but once you find out what you're supposed to be doing, it's totally worth it. Like it's the best feeling like ever. So
Yeah, that's what I always tell everyone. Like, I'm in college right now, like I mentioned, and so like, a person like me, at a young age, finally know like, what they want to do and the passion, which is really cool. So it's like I feel like I already found my purpose and like, I felt like I was like chosen to do this. But like
yeah,
I do have like, backup plans, like,
yeah,
oh, don't do that. I do want to still work with kids, in the medical field. So like, hearing your story, you're inspiring me. So like thank you so much. But
you're
yeah.
welcome. I think having a backup plan for anything in life is really important. Like
Yeah.
no matter what it is, always have a plan B, no
Yeah.
matter what it is. It's very important.
Right. Well, again, thank you so much, Dr. Goodman, for sharing your time with us. It has been a pleasure chatting with you today. If our audience wants to learn more about you, can they follow you on social media or anything else?
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link. But I do have a Facebook page that people can follow me on, and I post all my school talk information on there.
Yeah, because we need you at more schools to share your story. We need to. But we appreciate you sharing your time with us, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the future. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much, Lee. I'm really happy you reached out to talk to me.
Of course, you are such. Oh my God, it was so easy to talk to you.
Thanks.
Word.
Okay.